Which ACC teams would be the best fit for an expanded Big Ten? Why am I talking about this today? I'll tell you. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We're part of the podcast, Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And these days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. So who is and what schools are the best fit for the Big Ten from the ACC? Because you know that's coming. We've explained it here before. I'll do it again. Plus, we have our daily transfer portal news and our Big Ten top 10 observations from the weekend. See if they match yours. A lot of great stuff going on. Now, one of our favorite topics right here on Locked On Big Ten is future Big Ten expansion. And we think it'll come at the expense of the ACC when it implodes, following Florida State's and Clemson's separate lawsuits against the ACC, attempting to get rid of their wretched media rights deal. Now, I personally expect, and I would like to see Florida State come to the Big Ten, even if they especially when they are legally out of that ACC contract, when they're successful in their legal lawsuit there. And I think they will be. But is there a better option than, say, Florida State, or options for the Big Ten from the ACC? Now, again, this is a topic that we discuss repeatedly here on Locked On Big Ten. I enjoy it. You seem to enjoy it. Provokes a lot of thought. And there are a lot of possibilities that can happen. So naturally, I do a lot of reading on this topic. And I just want to make sure I have the updated facts at all times as I continue to form my opinions for this podcast. And among my reading, I came across a piece from Rutgers Wire, USA Today, and it questioned which ACC schools will be the best fit for the expanded Big Ten. And I disagreed with a lot of what this article said. And I have disagreed just based on what I've said in the past here on this podcast. But I wanted to explore a few of these ideas further, not to tear it apart or belittle it, but to respectfully discuss it. I mean, nobody knows for sure what's going to happen in the future. So we're about the free exchange of ideas here on Locked On Big Ten. So let's have at it. And we'll see what you think as well. My concept has been this, that when the inevitable happens, let's go big. Let's go big in the Big Ten. Let's grab the most high-profile football team in the ACC, and of course, that would be Florida State. And then grab Notre Dame while we're at it, the old independent that's loosely tied to the ACC. And as I pointed out in Locked On Big Ten last week, once this new revenue sharing thing becomes something that is in place around college athletics, and again, it's going to be a part of this settlement of this multi-billion-dollar House versus NCAA lawsuit that's been going on that we've explained in detail here. You can go back and find it over the past week or so here on Locked On Big Ten. But once this revenue share thing goes on, Notre Dame's not going to have anywhere else to go. They're not going to have a choice. This independence nonsense is over. They'll have to join a conference, and it will probably be the Big Ten. Some people like to still bury their head. I still get some nasty hate mail on Notre Damers that say, nope, you don't understand us. We are independent forever. Fine, if that's your opinion. I just see the tea leaves a lot differently than you do. And hey, it's been a great run as an independent, but you're coming to a conference. It's coming. It's happening. Nevertheless, Big Ten, they're a marquee league, and they should go after the biggest and the best out there. Now, keep in mind, the SEC is going to do the same thing, right? They think they're pretty good too. They're going to have a mindset. They're going to go after some of these same schools for the same reasons. So that will show us, if you don't get the schools you want, or maybe you get some you want and some others you don't, you're going to see real quick what the contingency choices are for these conferences as the ACC blows up. So that brings me to a couple points to this article I referenced here at the beginning. First, the academic part. All right. and people always get bent out of shape about this when I start talking about whether school's academic or not. That's not what this is about. But you know that there is a certain accreditation for schools called the AAU. The Big Ten likes that. Every Big Ten school is an AAU accredited school except one, Nebraska. Okay. And the thought has been that the Big Ten won't consider adding a school if it's not AAU accredited. I personally think that requirement goes out the window these days in these changing times of college athletics during this next round of expansion, because I think everything is about football and TV money moving forward. The school presidents can say what they want. I don't believe them. It is football. It is money. The whole academic accreditation, that's like this important right now. Very little. So my other point that this article made, and this is where I disagree, is that TV market size is one of the biggest factors at play here. Look, there's no doubt that market size and getting more markets into the Big Ten, obviously that's important. That's why the Big Ten has gone from coast to coast, from Los Angeles all the way to Maryland and Rutgers, East Coast, West Coast, everything in between. I'm not saying it's not important, but this article made the point that mediocre schools like Boston College and Georgia Tech are better fits for the Big Ten because they come from the biggest markets, Boston and Atlanta, and the Big Ten would love to have that. And sure, they would love to have those markets. But here's where I disagree a little bit. Again, it is an important factor. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think it's the end-all, be-all, because I don't know how many extra eyeballs are going to be watching Big Ten football, showcasing horrible football from Georgia Tech and Boston College. And historically, they've been bad, like for a long time. I don't think that's going to move the needle at all. Yeah, get you access to bigger markets, but there isn't that much interest. This article also diminished the likelihood of Clemson joining the Big Ten because it's from too small of a market. But it tried to tie Clemson, South Carolina to Charleston, South Carolina, and then compared it to the big market in Atlanta. Having lived 3.5 hours away from Clemson in Charleston myself for many, many years, I can tell you that Clemson is much closer to the Atlanta TV market than it is the Charleston TV market. So I thought that was a moot point. And I still think, Big Ten and Clemson is something worth looking at here a little bit. I think the Big Ten would much rather have Clemson football than Georgia Tech football, if at all. I think so. Another interesting angle that this piece tried to make was that Duke would be an excellent Big Ten candidate. I disagree. Despite the recent modest football success that they've had, Duke is a small basketball school. And sure, it has a great history, but it brings nothing to the table. Maybe academics, but I just told you that's not important anymore. Football is still the top dog when it comes to expansion. Plus, Duke has a it's a small private school. It's a small alumni base. And even in its own region, North Carolina and North Carolina State are far more popular in the state of North Carolina. You tell anybody that's lived in the state of North Carolina, you ask them, who's more popular in the state of North Carolina, NC State or Duke? NC State, hands down. It's not even a question. So if the Big Ten would fail to land Florida State and maybe Notre Dame or Clemson, then I think the next team on the list has to be Miami. And maybe it still is Miami. This all comes to the final question, how big you want to grow. We'll get to that in a second. But Miami checks a lot of boxes. Big market, Florida market. Everybody wants to get in Florida. Good football and basketball. And academically, by the way, it's an AAU member. But I told you that's not important. But if things are tied and it could put one school over another, it is an AAU academic member. It is. So those would be my top choices as the best fits for the Big Ten when the ACC does blow up. My secondary tier might be North Carolina and Virginia. And those two schools are very similar to all the Big Ten schools in a lot of ways right now. But finally, and this is what I just alluded to a moment ago, the thing to consider here is, well, how big does the Big Ten want to be? Does it just want to pick up 2 more schools and be 20? Does it want to do 22, 24? Does it want to do 30 and be the massive super conference we always talk about? Heck, if they're going to go to 30, then all these schools we talked about here on this podcast will get in. There's nothing to talk about here. Everybody's a fit at that point. And maybe there's room for everybody that wants to join. But as I pointed out, some schools are better fits than others. So that's my angle on that. Love to hear from you. You want to check us out on Twitter or X at Talk Big 10, comments on YouTube or our website, talkbig1010.com. Always love to hear from you. And also, by the way, feel free to subscribe. If you like what you see here, tell your friends about us. We're here every day. Go ahead and subscribe. It's a real quick click of the button and you're in. We're in the same Big Ten club at that point. You don't have to worry about any other information. It is free. So subscribe and follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. All right, coming up, there's a lot of news, some movement, some quarterbacks moving around in the Big Ten, transfer portal, recruiting news, all that stuff. And we have a softball champion that's going to the NCAA tournament, among others, 4 teams. We'll tell you who they are. All that is coming up right here on Locked On Big Ten. You know, I want to tell you about LinkedIn, LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. It helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even if those who aren't actively searching for a job, they might be open for a perfect role if it's out there. So even if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're in the wrong place. You need to be there. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional. Use LinkedIn. So here's what you do. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Want to thank you for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen every day. Thank you very much. And you everydayers out there, thank you. I always appreciate that. Meanwhile, be sure to subscribe. And you can share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And don't forget our website, Talk Big 10. That's number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts are there chronologically or by school. You can buy merch there. A lot of information right at your fingertips at the website. But let's continue with Locked On Big Ten here. Almost a year ago, this is an interesting story. Almost a year ago, Ryder Lyons, he received an offer to play for the Washington Huskies. And a lot has happened since then, obviously. Washington, they made it to the national championship game. And so this kid from Folsom, California, he was offered, but then he wasn't, because after that, they made a big coaching change. Everything happened there after the national championship game. Kalen DeBoer went to replace Nick Saban at Alabama. And everything got put on hold for this kid. So after 331 days, Lions received another offer from Washington, this time from new head coach Jed Fish. In the meantime, the Lions led his school to a Division I state championship, threw for 3,500 yards and 38 touchdowns. So it looks like he's going to be pretty good. Anytime we talk about recruiting news here on Locked On Big Ten, it's always brought to you by friends LinkedIn Jobs. Again, these days, every new potential hire could feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Last week, we made the case here on Locked On Big Ten how I thought it was really good for Iowa that they landed Northwestern quarterback Brendan Sullivan from the transfer portal to battle for Cade McNamara, who's had injury history since transferring from Michigan to Iowa, right? But this was bad news for Northwestern because Sullivan was their expected starting quarterback this year. After all, Northwestern had a remarkable overachieving year last year, went 8-5 and won a bowl game. That's after winning one game the year before. Absolutely incredible. So what were they going to do for an encore? Well, not much without a starting quarterback since he left. Problem solved. Mike Wright, Mike Wright, who has started games for Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State has committed to Northwestern through the portal. He's got 14 starts on his resume. He's played in 38 games. He's thrown for 24 touchdowns and rushed for 10 more. He's thrown for 2,500 yards. He's rushed for 1,200 more. So he's a dual threat now that Northwestern will be able to showcase at quarterback. Now, there are two other quarterbacks there as well, still on the roster that'll compete for this job. Jack Lausch, he's a redshirt sophomore, and sixth-year veteran Ryan Helinski is available as well. So maybe there'll be a little bit of a battle going on. We'll see who ends up winning that job. Going to be an interesting year for Northwestern, right after what they did this big year that they had. Now they tore down their stadium because they're getting a brand new one. They're going to be playing on campus right in front of the lake on the old lacrosse field. It's not going to be a big-time Division I football atmosphere. Maybe that's why Sullivan left. I'm not sure. But it will be a nice, cozy on-campus atmosphere. So there's a plus. Anyway, lots going on at Northwestern. That's going to be a team that's going to be interesting to watch this year, and we'll keep an eye on it right here on Lockdown Big Ten. Now, congratulations to Michigan softball. They won the Big Ten tournament this weekend, had a 3-1 win over Indiana for the title. It is the 11th title in Michigan softball history, but it's the first since 2019. The Wolverines won despite only collecting 2 hits off of Indiana pitching in this game. 4 Big Ten teams, including Michigan, head to the NCAA regionals now, May 17th to the 19th. They get through those. They go to the super regionals if they win. The Wolverines, they'll go to the Stillwater regional, and they will play Kentucky. All these were announced on Sunday night during a little selection show. Oklahoma State and Northern Colorado are also round out the 4 teams at that Stillwater regional that Michigan and Kentucky will be in. Other Big Ten teams to also make it, Northwestern makes it in. So congratulations to them. They go to Austin, and they'll start off by playing St. Francis. Penn State goes to Bryant Station, they're regional there, and will play Texas State. And Indiana made it in. They will head for the Columbia regional. They'll square off against future Big Ten team Washington there. So good luck to the 4 Big Ten teams that make it into the NCAA softball regionals. It's all very exciting. We'll have all the latest right here on Lockdown Big Ten. I'd like to ask you if you have TVs on during the weekday that have all those talking heads yapping at each other on FS1 and ESPN, those talking pundit, whatever you want to call them, shows. Yeah, sometimes you got to turn them down because they're always yelling at each other, screaming over each other, talking over each other. So I will tell you, we have a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming and yelling and talking over each other. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's got can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app we tell you about every single day here. It's part of the Lockdown Podcast Network. In fact, Locked On is on this Amazon Fire TV channels app as well. But everything on Locked On, your team every day. I want to let you know about that. All right, so it's a Monday. We always like to come out of the weekend with our Big Ten top 10 observations from the weekend. We'll see if they match yours as well. Lots to get to. That's right here around the corner. Locked On Big Ten right here. FanDuel. It's winner take all time. That means it's the postseason. NBA, Stanley Cup. FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. By the way, baseball full swing as well. Lots of stuff you can do with baseball. Here's a little tip for baseball. You want to bet on a baseball game? They got you can bet the winners and losers for a 9-inning game. You can do through 5 innings. You got a great starting pitcher that is just going to be lights out right after warm-ups. Maybe pick them to win just through the first 5 innings. This is something fun to do. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on point spreads, money lines, player props. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Monday night NBA, Celtics at Cavs. Celtics up 2-1. Boston's a 7.5-point favorite in this game. Boston has a habit of blowing a game in a series. They've already done that. They're clearly the better team here. Take Boston. Boston minus 7.5. The total's at 207.5. I would go slightly over that. They'll probably hold Cleveland to around 95 points, but Boston will get well into the hundreds. Thunder and Mavs. Dallas up in this series 2-1. Dallas a 1.5-point favorite. I like the Thunder to even things up here in this series. What do you think about that? Anyway, you can play FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Check it out. Have some fun. All right, it is time for our final segment here today already. This show is flying. All right, it's our Big Ten top 10 observations from the weekend. I'll list them here. We'll see if you agree with me on some of these as well. So we'll put them on screen and go through them one at a time. Here we go. We're going to start off with a shout out to Minnesota baseball beating Michigan State on Sunday. If you like runs, this was just an offensive fest here. Minnesota beating Michigan State 15-12 on Sunday. At number 9, our top 10 observations of the weekend, Penn State baseball. Here's another if you like runs, I mentioned you guys today. If you like pitching battles, maybe we'll save these for next week. Penn State baseball beating Rutgers 11-10 on Sunday. At number 8 on our list, Michigan softball beating Wisconsin. Now, this was in the semifinal on Friday. Sometimes these semifinal games can be the most exciting part as you're trying to get to the finals. But Michigan beating Wisconsin in softball 6-4, your final score there. And speaking of semifinals, Indiana, their last win of the year, they beat, up to this point, they beat Nebraska 9-5 in 8 innings on Friday to advance to the weekend championship game against Michigan. But we just mentioned how all that turned out. Let's see what else we have here on our list. At number 6, this is from late last week, Brandon Sullivan going from Northwestern to Iowa. I told you this is a big deal for Iowa, so it made the list at number 6. At number 5, Caitlin Clark. I know she's not an Iowa Hawkeye anymore. Indiana Fever. She had her first home preseason exhibition with the Fever. 13,000 fans showing up to a preseason WNBA game just to see her. Remarkable. At number 4, shout out to Ohio State's Quinshawn Judkins out of he's a transfer. He's one of the running backs that they got. And he hadn't even played a game for Ohio State, but guess what? He's on the cover of EA Sports. There's a handful of players on, but there's a couple from the Big Ten. So I wanted to mention him. Quinshawn's on there. Quinn Ewers from Texas. Travis Hunter from Colorado. Not Shedeur Sanders. What do you think of that? Jalen Milroe from Alabama and Carson Beck are on it as well. And there's Michigan representation on this. So let's put it on the big board. And it is Donovan Edwards also making the cover, the running back for the Wolverines on the EA Sports College Football 2025. There you go. All right, we got a couple more I want to mention. We want to give a shout out to Michigan softball coach Bonnie Toll, who, she's been an assistant for 29 years and now just 2 seasons as the head coach. Second season gets the Big Ten tournament championship. So congratulations there. And at number 1, congratulations to Michigan, the softball team, the Big Ten champs. Their 11th Big Ten tournament title in school history, 3-1 win over Indiana on Saturday, and again headed to the regionals. We just mentioned all that, so good luck to all those ladies on those softball teams that have worked so hard throughout the year. And now's the real fun time. These regionals are trying to get to the super regionals and then eventually play for a championship. So I wanted to mention those. Those are our top 10 observations from the Big Ten this weekend. See if it matches your list as well. Always do that every single Monday, some sort of top 10 list from the past weekend. Many ways for you to interact with this program. Don't forget, you can hit us up on Twitter or X at TalkBig10 number 10. Comments on YouTube as well. And don't forget our website, TalkBig10 number 10.com. Be sure before you go to subscribe. We're getting real close to like 8,000 now all of a sudden. We've been climbing up again. Thank you for that. You can put us over the top. Click subscribe. It's free. You can follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. You get the latest episode of Locked On Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Check out another episode of Locked On Big Ten after this one, if you don't mind. And don't forget our friends at Locked On Sports Today with you 24/7. Check that out, our Locked On friends as well. That'll do it. We're getting going on a brand new week. Lots of news out there with college football, Big Ten, transfer portal, all that kind of stuff. We like to dive into some controversial topics every once in a while, expansion, keeping an eye on everything. It's right here. Thank you for joining us. Tell a friend about us. I'm Craig Sheeman for Locked On Big Ten. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks for checking us out.